All right, thanks everyone for joining the meeting. My name is Niles. I think most of you may already know me. We're going to go ahead and start because it looks like we've already gone past the time we're supposed to start. I expect people to join alongside the meeting, and that's totally fine. Today we're going to talk about the trends in cybersecurity. We're going to talk about what cybersecurity is, and we're going to talk about the trends in cybersecurity. We're going to hear about my background, and we're going to talk about the digital transformation. We're going to talk about cybersecurity, types of attacks that are actually out there. Obviously, it's not going to be a comprehensive list of attacks, but just to kind of get your mind exposed to some of the attacks that are actually occurring today. And then we want to talk about towards the end, what part can you play in cybersecurity? So that's what we have to talk about today. The first thing I want to highlight is I'm going to mute because I'm hearing some noises in the background. Okay. The first thing I want to bring up is Fourth Industrial Revolution, right? What is it? Actually, first I'm going to introduce myself. My background is in networking technology. I started out as a network engineer right out of college. I joined Cisco Systems. I still work for Cisco Systems today, but I started out as a network engineer. Then I shifted to becoming a systems engineer where I partnered with account managers and basically drove Cisco technologies in public sector markets and commercial markets and enterprises. So basically I helped design wireless networks, enterprise networks, voice over IP networks for customers. And at that point, I decided to basically go into leave Cisco. I actually left Cisco to go and pursue network engineering, right? I knew how to design, and I knew from my head knowledge how to implement networking. I had several certifications, and at that point I said, okay, I want to go out and actually start doing network engineering for a company. And at that point I gained several skills. As a network engineer, I was in charge of mergers, where when companies would when our company would acquire new business, I would be the one that was in charge of bringing the merger on from a networking perspective, which means I had to work with acquisitions team, I had to work with the networking team, I had to work with the planning team and all of those things and actually implement it. And sometimes actually show up to the site and actually roll out the new site. I did a lot of that. But while I was doing that, Cisco called me back. They said, Niles, we know that you're doing amazing work at BE Aerospace. We'd like to have you come back and work in our virtualization team. At that point, I didn't know anything about virtualization, simply because I was focused on networking and I wanted to become great at that. But when Cisco called me back, I went through the interview and I actually, took the job there at Cisco again. And in that role, I learned about virtualization. Basically, this is a new trend that is actually, happening in the world. So in the past, people wanted to buy a server. They will buy the server. They will put it inside of their environment, and they use that server. And when it was time to add another application to their stack, they will go through the whole procurement process all over again, which took time to actually vet out the actual server you wanted, obtain the application, get it approved, make the purchase, wait time, burn-in time, all of these things. And so when you move to virtualization, the idea of having one server and being able to virtualize it to create many different servers inside of it was mind-blowing for me. And so in that role, I spent a lot of time working with Unified Computing System with Cisco. I became an expert there. Actually, that's where I obtained my CCIE. And then I wanted to do something different. After every 3 years, 2 to 3 years, I changed my roles. Within Cisco, I shifted to a new team where I did implementation of data centers, designing data centers, implementing them, validating the data centers. So I will actually design a data centers for Fortune 500 companies right here in a building, acquire the devices, build up the entire network, load data onto the network, test it, basically to prove that if we say it's going to do A, that we can actually deliver that. And at that point, that's when one of my Fortune 500 customers said, Niles, you've been doing this for 3+ years now. You are doing amazing at it, but let's talk about security. Okay. They said, let's talk about security. And I was like, security, what? So it was kind of like a shock to me at first. But they said, now you know about our data center. You know what goes in, you know what goes out, you know the network. And they wanted to know, how do you make sure that our data remains secure? How do we make sure that our data remains confidential and that no one else that doesn't want that shouldn't have eyes on it doesn't get eyes on it, on the data, on the intellectual property, and whatever they have. They asked me now, how do we make sure that our data it maintains its integrity, whether it's on storage somewhere in the data center or it's in transit going somewhere else. And they were like, how do we, and I didn't know the answer, to be honest with you, at that point. But then they proceeded to ask me about availability. How do we make sure that the data that we have that are being consumed by our customers, that are also being consumed by our employees, how do we make sure that an attacker doesn't attack it and render it useless to us and to our customers? And at that point, I decided that, hey, listen, I have friends in security. I have avoided learning about security, that I needed to learn about security. Obviously, number one, for me, it was for my customer, right? I've talked about job creation before, and who knows about this. But at that point, I took it upon myself to learn the technology, implement it for the customer, test it for the customer, so on and so forth. But then I became paranoid. I use technology all the time. How come I don't care about security in my home? Everybody that I know has an access to a smart device. How do I make sure that they are secure? You understand me? And so I essentially became paranoid. So I came down and I locked down, the network in my house, and, I had people ask me questions. Can I have access to this? What's going on? I can't reach this. But because I had began being curious about my data, my sensitive data in my home, what was coming in and what was going out. And at that point, I started questioning things like, well, if my system is meant to do A, what can I change in my system so that it can perform something else that it's not supposed to do, right? This is what's happening in cybersecurity, where people are taking a device or a system that's supposed to perform one thing, and they basically say, how can I make it do something else? And so that's basically what I started doing, and that's how come I ended up in a cybersecurity role. Today, I provide cloud security for customers. So I basically help implement cybersecurity solutions from a cloud perspective. I work with your DNS, and I help design solutions for on-network, on-prem users, for off-network users, for proxying users. I help create that infrastructure for help design and implement that for Cisco customers today. So that's a little bit about me, and that's why I feel like I am equipped to have this conversation with you. So with that said, let's talk about trends in technology, right? We can all agree, right? We can all agree that, things were not always the way it is now in terms of technology. Back in 1774, there was a steam power machine that helped create power, right? In 1870, we shifted to actually mass production and enabling electricity. And then in 1969, we moved to digitizing things. What does that mean, to digitize things? What is the internet? What is the IT? And at that point, the question started being, how can we leverage IT in our education? How do we implement IT and use it in our public sector, in our private sector? That was Industry 3.0. Today, we are at the fourth industrial revolution. This is the trend, where you're going to see artificial intelligence. You're going to see machine learning. You're going to see IoT, which is Internet of Things, where people are creating physical systems to interact with humans. Applications we're using technology to determine human behavior, and this just shows that we're in the information age, right? Being in the information age means that we have a bigger landscape of data. This also means that we have a huge landscape for people like myself or any cyber attackers out there that want to penetrate this data, that want to steal this data, that want to use it for their own benefit than what it was supposed to do. So this is fourth industrial revolution that's actually going on right here. So when you're thinking about what you want to do with your life, as you know that this is about the fourth industrial revolution, think about how you can play a part, knowing that there's artificial intelligence, cloud infrastructures, there's physical systems like IoT and cyberspace, things that are happening. Think about things that are happening, and you can Google 4IR and the technologies that are applicable in that sense. So I've talked to you about the trends in technology. Let's focus in on one thing, okay, a little bit. Digital transformation. What is that and how does that affect you? On the left here, you're going to see a little diagram, green, that has a little blue half arrows on top of it. First thing is digitization. What is that? That is simply taking a hard document and converting it to digital. Okay, so you may go to the doctor or you may go to the corporate CSC office, and basically they give you a form to fill. When you fill that form, we can scan it and put it into a storage system. That's called digitization. All right, and then there's the next step called digitalization. What is that? That means, okay, you've now taken a sheet of paper, you scan it into storage. What can you do to leverage that digital content to enable your business, to enable your consumers, to employees, to optimize operations, and to transform solutions, right? So we've moved, most companies abroad have moved from digitization to digitalization. Now, beyond that is digital transformation. What does that mean to you, right? Think about this is actually changing the way you do your business. I'll paint a little bit picture that I like to use to converse with a lot of people. Digital transformation is basically taking the digitized content that you have and figuring out a way to serve your end user. Okay, take for instance, I would say maybe Uber or a doctor's office. Yeah, so let's use doctor's office. The doctor's office is, I know I have these clients in my system. I have their date of birth. I have their health history. Now, what can I do with this content, right? I can say, I am one of your clients. If I get ill, Mr. Doctor, I don't want to come to your office to be treated. I want to go on my phone, my smart device. I want to click an app for your environment, for your application, for your business. I want to schedule time with you. I want to see your calendar. I want you to meet me over the telephone or over the video. I want you to analyze my symptoms. What do you need? Blood work? You can make the request for the blood work. I can go to the lab and actually get my blood drawn, and then you get those results, evaluate them, and then you can go ahead and call me, and then we can have a conversation about the results. All of that happened without me having to step foot in your office. That's called digital transformation. So businesses today are basically changing the way they do businesses so that they can meet the way the consumers want to use their business. So what you're going to see is that the impact of technology is that end users are determining how they want to be served, and if you are any kind of any kind of business, you know that you need people, and you have to listen to them, change your business model, modify your processes, and make sure that you deploy new solutions that are innovating, that help drive better business outcomes. So this is called digital transformation, and you're going to hear people talk about it all the time. But it's because they are drivers. Think about in Nigeria. We have Bolt. We have Uber. I remember when I grew up in Nigeria, if my daddy wanted to take a taxi, we had to walk to the junction and then bring the taxi back to the house. And then we would take the taxi to where we're going. The taxi would be gone, right? Fine. here in the U.S., I actually live in the U.S., but here in the U.S., how does it work? The taxi, you can call a call center, a taxi call center, and you tell them, I want a taxi to come to my house at this time, and they will come and pick you up. And when they do come, you have to get in the car, you can watch the meter go up, and then you have to pay at the end. This is normal. That car is owned by that company that I called to make an appointment. Okay? But now, because consumers are saying, I don't want to call the taxi driver, and I don't want to put my credit card at the end of the taxi ride, and I don't want to walk to the junction to go and make that call. So you know what? That's why we have Bolt. That's why we have Uber drivers. Why? Because now consumers say, I want to, by the use of my phone, pick up an app, schedule a time to be picked up, maybe 5 days in a row, and expect someone to be at my door to pick me up. And on top of that, I don't want to pay when I get to my location, my destination. I just want to get out and go. So these are the business drivers that are actually driving transformation that we are experiencing, and you have to take note. Whatever business that you are in, if you're not already having, I can tell you, I personally know a lot of businesses in the developing country that are not digitized. And also I know that there are a lot of businesses that are looking for ways to transform their digitization, right? So you as an employee should be thinking in your head, what can you do differently now to transform the business? Don't wait till your boss comes and tells you to do that, right? Because your boss, what is he going to do? If he needs to do this and there's been protocol pushed down upon him, he's going to come. It's going to be, Jesse cannot do this. Let me find the next guy to do it. And soon you're going to be out of a job, right? So this discussion is around the future of jobs. So I want to open your mind to that potential that are actually out there. All right, so there's that. And then at that point, as you can see, we are moving, we are consuming more and more data, right? If we've gone from digitization and we're now actually using, the data that we digitize, and we're looking for ways to transform. That means that we are in the information age, okay? And that also means that businesses of all sizes are going to have to rely on networks and data to run their day-to-day operations. Okay, right? This also means that these businesses want to make sure that their systems remain reliable, that they remain secure in order for them to deliver products, in order for them to deliver services to their customers. So that essentially is the definition of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, networks, programs, and from digital attacks. Okay, if you look on the right-hand side, this is the question that company that I was doing a data center validation for, this is what they asked me. They basically said, Niles, how do I make sure that my data remains confidential, that it maintains its integrity and no one changes the data to do the wrong thing, or that it remains available? Okay, integrity is, all of these, this is called the CIA triad. And so it's worth someone taking the time and really trying to understand it. I was having a conversation with, someone in the health industry, and the question is, I was talking to him about was, hey, how do you make sure that the code that you've designed to cure a particular illness doesn't get intercepted in the way of transportation or in storage to actually administer an illness to somebody, right? So if you had a code that was to cure cancer, and here I am, I'm an attacker, I can take that code and change the integrity of it and make it give people heart attacks or any other illnesses, right? So it's important to consider security and how it might impact your business, impact your employer's business, how it impact your customers. So what are cyber attacks? Cyber attacks is simple. It's very direct. It's an attack against a digital system, networks, or applications. Oh, look, I didn't even finish spelling that. Sorry, but hey, it's an app, right? And why do they occur? They occur for a variety of reasons. It really goes down to it really boils down to who is making the attack, because they have their own reasons for that attack, right? Maybe it is to obtain unauthorized access. You have something that is really, really good, and I want it. And if I come and ask you, you're going to tell me, get the heck out of here, right? Well, I know you use data. Well, I know you have a computer in your company. I know you have sensitive data. Right, all right. What I'm going to do is just get in and check it without your permission, right? I want to acquire unauthorized access so I can do whatever I want. For denial of service, maybe you piss somebody off. Maybe you cut somebody off in traffic. They're driving, and because your car is nicer than the next person, you splash water on people and you drive off. Now you pissed me off. What you forgot is that you have the name of your business in the back of your car. Let's say your business is togodbetheglory.com. Togodbetheglory.com sounds like a nice name, but that's about it. If I'm pissed off at you, I could launch an attack to your business website, and maybe you have a button that has a vulnerability in it that says yes or no, some kind of button on your website. I can create a code that can push that button that's on your website so much that no one else can access your website. If I do that, I've essentially caused a denial of service, because what I've essentially achieved is that I am an illegitimate user for you to godbetheglory.com. But there are a lot of legitimate users out there, right? Well, I don't freaking care about them. So what I do is you piss me off and I launch an attack in your business. Now all your legitimate users, they can't access it, right? So it could be because you piss me off, or it's because you have something that's good back there. But whatever it is, DOS is one of the things that are out there. It's called DOS, okay? It could be to install malware. It could be to install worms and viruses, Trojan horses. It could be because I'm a hacktivist, I believe in something and you don't believe in it. Maybe abortion. I might believe in abortion and you don't believe in it, and you're out there touting your horn that you don't believe in abortion. Well, I might have to come and attack your system simply because I want to let you know that I don't care about you, right? There's cyber attacks because people want to steal personal data, sensitive information. Well, in Nigeria or all over the world, we all have date of birth. We all have names that are unique to us. If I steal your name, your date of birth, the national ID, social security number, your license number, your birth certificate, well, I can open accounts anywhere I want. If I open bank account or credit card account or file for a loan from anywhere, I have all your details to do that. And if I do that and there's no way to track it, what are you going to do? Nothing, right? It could be just for bragging rights. Sometimes I know a 12-year-old right now, 12-year-old. I won't say who it is. Okay, this 12-year-old is determined to hack a network so they can have access to what their parents does not want them to do. And there are definitely a lot of tools out there on the internet that enables them to do that without even knowing what those tools do, right? So everyone, and we call them script kiddies, like, not everyone. Everyone needs to be concerned about their cyber posture. Everyone needs to be concerned about their data, their sensitive data, and because attackers are everywhere and they're looking, and the more we consume data, the more we create the landscape. That also increases the playground for attackers. Okay, there's types of attack. There's malware, there's phishing, man-in-the-middle attack, DOS, SQL injections, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those in the next slide. I put this up here because it's important, all right? I have had several people tell me that in Africa or in their company, not just in Africa, in their company, they don't experience cyber attacks. I call bull on, because I know that maybe they're not telling me the truth, or maybe they have layered security to protect themselves. It doesn't mean that something hasn't happened. You know what I'm saying? It means that they just haven't exposed it. They don't know about it, that people are trying to attack them, or they've protected against it, or they have been attacked and they're just trying to hide it. You understand me? So clearly you can see, if you look at this data, 2017, this study was done by Court to Africa. Nigeria lost $649 billion. Stats don't lie. I know of a company right now that is particularly in Nigeria. I'll tell you this. I won't tell you the name of the company. They got hacked. If I say that name, everybody in here are going to know that name. Okay? They got hacked, and when they got hacked, they got their username, they got their password, they got their date of birth information, they got their security code, which is kind of like what's your mommy's first name or your daddy's last name or something like that. And the attacker was able to use that data and log in as if he was the legitimate user. And so when we found this out, that particular person called the company and said, Mr. Company, you've been attacked. That company started shouting, look at you. They better not email me again. Don't converse with me. I'm going to send you to jail. Meanwhile, we have a database of your customer, and basically you're just trying to tell an American person that you're going to send them to jail, and they're trying to tell you you've been attacked. Here, what are you doing about it? Hey, are you going to tell your customers? Here, are you going to change the system so this is what's happening. And this can happen to anybody, not just in Nigeria. This happened in the United States. This happens everywhere in the world, okay? And I am right now focused on Nigeria at all because I know a lot of us in here are Nigerians, right? Because I want to make sure that you see that it is real, right? Okay? So let's talk about some types of attacks, right? So we know that it's happening, and if it's not happening to you, it's a matter of time it will happen to you. Let's talk about types of attack. Phishing attack. Phishing attack is basically a scenario where somebody is trying to use an email to basically get you to do something. This particular attack plays at the human element. Okay, in any company, it's very important for you to know that you're only as strong as your weakest link. Okay, you're only as strong as your most securely aware person in your environment, right? So we all face this one. It's called a phishing attack. We all get emails that are like ridiculous, and we're like, what's going on here? Take a look at this email on the left-hand side for an example. It says, hi, Kathy. Your Visa credit card has been deactivated due to suspicious activity. Please visit www.visa.deactivate.info to reset your password, enable your card, and avoid fees. Sincerely, the Visa team. Immediately you look at that, you're going to be like, crap, my MasterCard. Where is it? You're going to look into your purse. You're going to see that it's there. You're going to be like, crap, what does this mean? Was I really attacked? What suspicious activity are they talking about? Well, certainly the link is there. And as you can see, it's highlighted with a bright color so that you will know that, you should click on that link. An average person that is not security aware is going to click on that link. And what's going to happen is you click on that link, you're going to get a website of your bank, and you're going to enter your username, you're going to enter your password. What you're trying to do is to go and find out about the suspicious activity. That's your goal. So when you go to that website and you enter your username and password, what immediately happens is that you get that web page displayed to you again, essentially asking you to enter your username and password again. And as an average person, you're going to be like, wow, well, that was weird. I thought I just entered it, and you're going to enter it again. And so you enter it again, and now that takes you to your bank or your Visa card bank account. And you now look through it and you see, okay, I went to Rite Aid, I went to the grocery store, I shopped at NTEP store or whatever. You're going to be like, okay, nothing is happening here, so that email is false. Okay, you ignore it and you go about your way. That's a problem. What has happened? You just been attacked, okay, and you don't even know it. What just happened was you were sent to a splash page, and that page, that first web page that you entered your data in, was sent by an attacker. And now they have your data. They have your username and password. And basically, they're going to cut out. They're not going to go and make a transaction immediately because you are on alert, right? They're going to wait till you've forgotten about the email and moved on and everything. And then they can go and make some transfer. They can transfer a huge sum of money at once. Or they can do an anomaly where they take $10 out, or I don't know, 100 naira out here, 1,000 naira out there, so that you don't notice. That's called a phishing attack. And you can easily avoid this, right? Immediately you get this email. It says, "Hi, Kathy. Your Visa credit card has been deactivated due to suspicious activity. Please visit that link." First thing you can see, it says www.visa.deactivate.com. You're going to be like, you should be like, my bank doesn't know how to spell deactivate. That should make the hair in the back of your neck stand up and say, what the heck? You know, why does my bank not know how to spell deactivate? And second of all, how come they don't use spell checkers? Okay, that should have alerted you. Number two, if you roll your mouse over that link, you're going to see that it's actually not your bank. Okay, you're going to see that actually the domain is deactivate.info.com, and that Visa is the host name, and that doesn't have anything to do with your company. Okay, so you can roll your mouse over that link, and immediately you're going to find out that it's going to take you to a site that you don't want to go to, and you can basically delete this immediately. Okay, an average user doesn't know that, and this is why phishing attack. Before phishing attack is actually sent to your email, someone is studying you. Okay, they already know that you either have a Visa card or a MasterCard. They've been studying you. They know something about you, and that's why you're getting that particular email. They know you went to that bank, right? Because we use the internet, our data is out there, right? Because it's being collected. What sometimes you may think it's not being collected, but it's being collected, right? On the right-hand side, there are samples of general email subject of phishing attacks. Excuse me. Password check required immediately, 43%. A delivery attempt was made, 9%. The activation of email in process, 9%. All of these things are things that trigger users to be like, hey, I'm going to get attacked. I need to do something. And then before you know it, you've already compromised yourself. So that's a sample of phishing attack. Malware. Malware. Malware? What is malware? It's very easy. It describes malicious software. Basically, they took the mal out of malicious and ware out of software. That's why we have malicious software. Okay, this could be spyware that is put in your computer to spy on you. It could be ransomware where somebody basically encrypts your files in your system and basically hold you for ransom. And until you pay money in maybe Bitcoin, then you don't get your data unencrypted, right? You don't get the key to unencrypt the data. Or it could be a virus or worm. It could be, it's just malware, and it does exactly that. This can be through a network. Malware breaches may happen through a network from a vulnerability that is it's known or unknown. But typically what happens is the user clicks on a dangerous link or an email attachment, and that installs a risky software inside their computer. Once in the system, that malware can do anything. Okay, it can block access to critical components in the network. It can install things, harmful software. It can install a spot for someone to basically hide out so that they can come back later and maybe escalate their privileges and do things on the network. It could be to obtain information and steal from your hard drive, or to disrupt your system and just annoy you. You know, they have their reasons for launching a malware attack on you, but these are also prevalent. And it happens everywhere. This example of it happening in Atlanta, right? This happened in the city of Atlanta in Georgia. Basically, the city was shut down because somebody clicked on a link. And basically, a malicious software was unleashed, and the system was locked down and encrypted and held for ransom. Okay, and then the request was you need to pay in 0.8 Bitcoins for each affected system, which totaled about 6 Bitcoins, to get the private keys to unlock all of the affected systems. This caused a big problem for Atlanta. Okay, imagine now people that are need to pay water bills cannot pay their water bills. Imagine people that are in prison can come up and say, excuse me, sir, I need you to let me out of this prison because I was supposed to be let out today. and you have no access to verify. What are you going to do? Hold them hostage? You see what I'm saying? There are various reasons why ransomwares can take place, and you just have to create an environment that protect your system from getting hit. Right here is a man in the middle of attack. A man in the middle of attack is basically somebody standing in between a conversation and basically impersonating you. Okay. On the left-hand side here, you see a user. On the right-hand side, you see a web application. If I was the attacker here, right, I stand in the middle and I converse with the user. And the user thinks that he's talking to the web application and continues the conversation. And the web application is thinking that they're talking to the user. Imagine yourself, maybe this is a bank. The web application is your bank, right? So I can be someone that needs to steal money from you or find out some information. I could be in the middle, basically eavesdropping on your conversation. What does that look like? Imagine the guy here on the left. Jack is victim 1, and Jill can be the web application, all right? Think about this. Jack can basically say, I need to get information from the web application, which is Jill. So it sends his key to Jill, to the website. Hey, Jill, I want to talk to you. Here's my key. Peter is the man in the middle. Sees this key, but allows Jill to get it. So Jill gets it and says, oh, okay, I got Jack's key. Now let me send Jack my key. So Jill goes ahead and sends her key. But Peter in the middle texts the key and says, aha, I now have the key for Jill and I have the key for Jack. And now Peter in the middle is the one that sends Jack Jill's key. Jack has no idea. Jill has no idea. But Jack is happy because he now knows that he thinks he's talking to bank application. He thinks he's talking to Jill. And so what does Jack do? Jack sends the account number to supposedly Jill. What he doesn't know is that he's sending an account to Peter. Peter gets it and says, oh, I have his account number now. I'm in the middle. He doesn't know. And so you know what he does? He takes that account number, sends it over to Jill. Jill says, yes, exactly what I expected. Fine, I got the account number. And now Jill says, all right, I'm now going to transfer money and send it to Mr. Jack. And guess what? Mr. Peter is now rich because you know what? Mr. Peter changed the number to be Peter's number and not Jack's number. So the money is not going to Jack's account, it's going to Peter's account. This happens often because of human error. This happens often because we utilize free web services. This happens often. It could be from a router that you put in your network that you have not changed default passwords to, right? This can happen not just to businesses, not just in public and private sectors, but also to individuals. All right. So think about this as you are accessing applications. Find out, do you see the padlock on the website or not? Right? Is your conversation is it encrypted over SSL or not? So if you go to a website, it doesn't have the little padlock, just follow that. You hear me? It's for your best interest. Talk about the denial of service. I'm going to skip the slide for the sake of time, but I'm going to talk about the next one. Denial of service, this is an example that has actually happened right there in Nigeria. It's actually documented. I'm sure you guys have heard of Premium Times. This was back in 2015. It says, how Premium Times survived a massive cyber attack during presidential election coverage. How did it happen? The attacker started a SIM flood, basically from a button on their website. Okay, no, that's inaccurate. From something on their website, okay, an attacker basically was performing several, sending SIM flood to their website. And so therefore, Premium Times could not report on what was going on for 23 hours. And now, but you know what? Everybody in the U.S. can get information. The people that are local that need to know what's going on couldn't get access to the details that was there. So you cannot say that this doesn't happen. It could be a business it could be any business, right? It happens, and very frequently. Oftentimes, most companies are aware. Most entities, most most governance, they have maybe an ICT company for the public sector that actually creates policies and frameworks that require companies to basically report their incidents, right? And even that is sometimes risky from the consumer. Sometimes they may not actually report, even though they're required to report. And oftentimes too, it can happen from the policy end. You may have people that are enforcing the policies collect bribes so that you guys know the deal, so that they don't have to report. And because if you report, what do you risk? Tarnished reputation. If it's a bank, if I had a bank in Nigeria and found out that my bank was exposed to a cyber attack and money was stolen, I'm gonna pull all my money out. I'm gonna tell my auntie. I'm gonna tell my uncle. Then they're all gonna tell everybody. And sooner or later, that company is gonna be shut down, right? So oftentimes people don't record, right? But it's there. It's happening. Now, here is a web conference that we are all very happy, very, very. We use it a lot, right? I'm sure you guys have, we all know about the pandemic. We all know about, how the lockdown started, right? It was very sudden. It was like 2 days. You have 2 days. We're going to lock down the whole city. You can't go out. You can't do this. You can't go to school. You can't go to work, And so basically everybody resorted to the most used free tool, and that was Zoom. I'm sure a lot of you in here either have been in Zoom meetings or know somebody who's using Zoom for their meetings on a daily basis. It's because it's free. It's because it's easy to set up. It's easy to use, right? Schools here in the United States resorted to using Zoom. Well, guess what? As an attacker, I also resorted to using Zoom because it was free. It's easy to set up. It's easy to use. That also means that it's not well protected. It has a lot of vulnerabilities available to it in it, And when I found this out, that the schools, even the schools like my children were utilizing Zoom, I just freaked out because I knew about Zoom, right? There have been several attacks with Zoom where basically if you download the application onto your system, you can actually pivot and obtain your Windows password. And if it does that, we all know that if I can know that you use Zoom, Chrome to download Zoom, so obviously I know you like using Zoom, and then most likely inside of Chrome you have your password saved, and that might include to every single link that you like to go to. That could be your bank, that could be your work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab that data. And you know what I'm going to do? And you know what? I'm going to take it to the dark web. I'm going to sell it. Sell it for pennies. And if I have a million of those, I walk away rich, and you have nowhere to track me. Because of the vulnerability in Zoom, why should you care, right? Eavesdropping happens. If you're a business, you have intellectual property, things I like to call crown jewels. You don't want anybody hearing your information, do you? Right? Because it's not so private. If you're writing a patent, you don't want to use Zoom because if I'm eavesdropping, if I can eavesdrop because of a vulnerability, I'm stealing your ideas. What are you going to do if I'm able to patent the idea first? If you're trying to run a business and you're using Zoom and you have this new strategy and I listen in on it, okay, who's going to go to market first, me or you? Right? So when we think about confidentiality, integrity, availability, sensitive data, you should care. On the top right-hand side was a meeting in Zoom, and you can see the middle is blanked out for a reason. Someone asked a question here. I've not even been looking at. Yeah, continue to type your question, and we'll address them at the end. Okay? I appreciate that, Mr. Moore. I see your question. All right. Yeah, so you're using Zoom, and so I'm able to figure out what your Zoom numbers are, and I can connect to it, and you don't have to know that I'm doing that. And what am I going to do on top of it? I can get in there, and I can eavesdrop, steal your data. Beyond that, I can start drawing things of female organs or male organs or show porn videos. How are you going to stop me? You can't. If you have children that are using Zoom and you're trying to protect your eyes, you should think twice. If you are a leader in a business and you're using Zoom, you should think twice. The picture on the right-hand side is a meeting that's occurring at the person that's sharing is in the boardroom, right? So it's somebody in the CXO level that is sharing his screen, and look what someone is doing on it. It's embarrassing. They can steal your data. And then beyond that, if I knew that Zoom has a vulnerability, I am an attacker. Imagine that I'm an attacker. I can hide a vulnerability within the Zoom application. Take, for instance, there is an app, there's a tool that can allow me to turn on your camera, and if I turn on your camera, and I can switch off the light, so you will have no idea that the camera is on. Someone like me, if you see on my first page, I say I work anywhere I can take my computer. And I'm so literal about that. It can be the restroom, it can be the closet, it can be the beach, it could be in Nigeria. Cisco knows it, right? And if I am, at any point when I could be talking to you, you don't know where I am. I'm having a solid conversation with you, and I don't know my camera is on. The attacker is able to view everything I'm doing. If I am changing, a camera is on, and then that person has my pictures of my body. If I'm making the bed, that person can see. That's privacy. When you start using technology, your privacy it's outside of your privacy boundary is expanded to the application you use. Whether you use WhatsApp, and that's where your privacy can be invaded. The application that you're using, text messaging, Facebook, social media, you open your privacy up to vulnerabilities and things to happen. Imagine, let's say that you actually did piss me off during your Zoom meeting, right? And the Zoom meeting gets shut off, and I am able to open that particular tool that I installed. Now, I can turn that video of you and broadcast it to Facebook. I can go live, and I can make money off of it. I can hide it in between YouTube videos, right? This is vulnerability within vulnerabilities. And maybe you were having a discussion about your business. Maybe you were talking about strategic, ways to drive your business transformation. Now I have it, and now it's public data, right? If you're thinking about using something that is free, that cannot be held responsible, you should think twice of the consequences. My children, we fight. Listen, they can get on WebEx or they cannot. They make the choice, right? I have a VM environment that can allow them to use Zoom, but I can restore that virtual machine anytime I want, right? So I can enable my kids to still use Zoom in a sandbox that doesn't affect anything, right? I can do that. Can you do that? Then okay, by all means. And then you can also make sure that everyone around you that is using Zoom can do the same thing, right? Then by all means, help yourself. After saying that, I can tell you there have been several major cyber attacks in the 21st century that has affected millions of people across the globe. You may not know about Equifax. Equifax is a credit agency in America, and everybody has their name, their identity, their addresses, their credit, everything. That the Equifax, and there's three of them, they know everything about you. Number one, Americans don't ask to join Equifax. Okay, so it's enforced upon you if you make any transaction, if you have social security number, if you use it at any point, then you will have a record about you. This basically determines how credible you are to be given money to make a transaction, so on and so forth. Okay, so we don't opt in to be reported on Equifax. Meanwhile, Equifax did not patch a server that allowed 147 million data of Americans to be stolen. That includes their customer's name, their social security number, the date of birth, addresses. These were all stolen. And you know where they sold them at? Maybe they're just keeping them somewhere until at some point when we forget about them, they sell them or they begin using them to open accounts anywhere in the world, okay? And this was through a web vulnerability, okay? And it's something that could have been prevented. This is an American company. If it happens to an American company with a new server that's relatively new, it can happen anywhere, especially with legacy systems. eBay got hacked through three employees. eBay exposed 145 million customer data that were personal. Yahoo. How many of you in here still use your Yahoo account? A lot. My friends, when I ask them for email and it's Yahoo, I tell them immediately, I need you to find me another email before I can send you an email. It's very easy, right? They've been hacking them for years and years and years and years and years, and they have not put second means to protect the end users, right? So these are things that are happening across the globe, and if it happens across the globe, it can happen to you. In the middle here is Target. Let me tell you about Target. Target is a company that we go to buy clothes. It's like Walmart. We buy clothes. We buy anything. We can buy anything at Target except for cars and certain things. Any household goods we can buy at Target. Target got attacked. And Target got attacked not because of its employees, not because of the customers, but because of third parties that they are connected to. You see, most businesses are connected to third parties to help them drive their business. In fact, for Target, it was their air conditioning system, air conditioning vendor, someone that maintains your air conditioning machine did not maintain your system and keep it patched, and that's how 40 million credit and debit cards were stolen, and 70 million PII, personal identifiable information was stolen from Target, from a third party. So if you have a business, you can say, I've protected myself, I'm fine, and all that. Well, who else do you interact with? Is it customers? Because then you can have a hole there, a vulnerability there. Is it a partner that's helping you drive your business? Well, think again. How protected are they? So these are things that we should be thinking about as employees and as businesses. As we engage, there should be policies around, protection, and you should have a layered way of protecting your company. And we can talk more about that at another time. I'm almost coming to an end here. I want to bring this back up again. You've heard about the different attacks, and if you think twice, you will realize that even you, anywhere in the world, you can experience cyber attack from a personal perspective, maybe you are in the government sector, the company, and from a private sector perspective. Nobody is immune to this. And if you can see how it's very possible for this to happen. And you know what? On top of that, let me tell you something else. Right now, I can just turn to somewhere, and I can basically, from U.S., issue an attack to a company and steal their money. Meanwhile, appear as if it's coming from Nigeria. Tell me why Nigeria has a bad reputation for 419. We need cybersecurity skills in the country. We need a cybersecurity policies for every organization and for your own sake. So a call to cybersecurity for you. I've talked about digital transformation and how basically customers are deciding how they want to do businesses with enterprises and public sector. I'm sure you've heard about e-government. Governments are looking for ways to make sure that they remain highly available for the consumers or for the constituents. We are migrating to the cloud environment, right? Instead of buying a data center, buying all the servers, buying all the applications and all the networking devices and storing them and keeping them and heating and cooling them, well, let's go to the cloud, right? Businesses are migrating to the cloud. And within the cloud providers, they have several tenants, right? How do you make sure that your tenant, like your own bucket, your own flat, your own data remains within it's only seen by you, that it maintains its own integrity and it remains available just for you, not the neighboring tenant. right? So cybersecurity, even though we're shifting from a traditional business sense and migrating to cloud, yes, we are adopting the cloud strategy because it just makes sense. It's important that not only you rely on whomever your cloud provider is, but also have the in-house skills that are testing. Can they penetrate your cloud? Can they exploit? If they find a hole in the back door, can they exploit and actually go in? Can they privilege escalate to do things that they're not supposed to do? You know, we should be thinking about this on a continual basis, right? Because of what's going on in the transformation of digitization, there's a huge workforce gap. Okay, this was done 2019. This study was done in 2019, and as you can see on the top left-hand side, the green little circle, there's 4.07 million cybersecurity skills, cybersecurity jobs that are available. What part are you playing? Right? You are really good at what you do. You're really good at what you do, right? Great. Who else is really good at what you do? And how are you setting yourself apart so that you can solve today's problem, right? We want to enable cloud adoption. We want to enable machine learning, artificial intelligence, IoT. We want to enable that. But how do we make sure that our companies are doing it securely? Machine learning, cyber attackers are using it too. So are you learning machine learning so that you can apply it to cybersecurity for your organization? Or are you learning machine learning even for, you know, your business to transform? You know, you got to be thinking about these things. You know, there's a vast amount of opportunities. I myself, I have some people that I work with. We offer training. We have, you know, when we help someone solve a problem, we actually help them, train them to do exactly what we taught them to do, because we solely believe in enabling the locals to do the job, right? It's important for us to understand that there are a lot of innovators in Africa, in the developing countries. We understand that, we know that. And for myself and people that I work with, we want to partner with those people to say, hey, how do I enable you carry out these activities in the cybersecurity space so that we can walk away knowing that you can do it for the company. That means that you need to invest in yourself. You need to be curious. You need to be curious. You need to ideate. Talk to your leadership. Hey, what are we doing about this? Question them. Are we doing it securely? If we're developing an app, are we taking development, security all through the process of development, or are we waiting to the end to put a cap on it and say, oh, yeah, we put a bolt on it because it's now secure? Meanwhile, the developer left the back door and forgot to close it. Most developers always leave back doors so they can go back in and fix something. It's possible that they forget to close it, right? Anyway, the question or the fact about cybersecurity workforce gap is undeniably there. I know it. Now that because of the pandemic, us shifting to working from home, personally, I've been extremely busy in the cybersecurity space. Literally, there may be some days where I sleep very minimal hours. I'll be very honest with you, but it's because of the need for cybersecurity skills to help meet this business needs, because the need is there. We just need the skills to drive those solutions. So how can you play a part? I personally believe in upskilling, right? I believe that every adult should be interested in upskilling themselves. If your boss hires you to do A, well, make sure you execute A very diligently. Do you hear me? Yes. Now, it's also up to you to say, Mr. Boss, I see that we have this application here. How do you make sure that it's secure? Hey, I took some time and I invested in myself and I learned this. Let me do it for our company. You understand what I'm saying? So take your own responsibility and upskill yourself. Set yourself apart by learning something else new. It doesn't have to be cybersecurity. Well, I'm a little biased here, but be diligent so you can play a part in not just for you know, a business, but for your own personal self. You know, you should ask yourself, what precautions are you taking to keep your own information safe? Do you reuse the same password across multiple applications, across multiple websites? Have you ever configured multi-factor authentication for your WhatsApp account, for your Facebook account, for your work website, for your, you're interacting with, several third parties. You require them to utilize multi-factor authentication. Do you make a habit of installing updates on your computer when they become available, or on your mobile devices, or do you delay it? You're like, oh, well, I know it's going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. I know it's going to take an hour. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Well, you know what? You're also giving someone like myself a chance to maybe attack you, right? I do want to say one thing. While I know how to penetrate, test, I know how to exploit, I don't do that unethically, okay? I don't want to go to jail. I like my freedom way too much. Anything that I've said in this document, I'm not suggesting any of you do it illegally. You will end up in jail if you are found out, okay? Now that's it. I'll go back to what I was talking about. So the questions I just asked you about keeping your own personal information safe and all of those things, it also applies to the business, okay? It seems like there are simple questions, but how do I put this? The outcomes of neglecting even these basic security protocols or controls, it can have serious consequences on your own personal self, okay, or the business you work for, whether it's a private enterprise or public sector, okay? Some people go back to school. Well, I debate on if that's necessary or not, but there are certifications that you can take, study, take your time and buy a book and read it, or, we have Udemy, we have Udacity, we have several ways you can gain this intelligence without having to go back to school, okay? Invest in yourself, take the test, pass it, because there's some people that are not going to even talk about hiring you. If they look at your vitae or your resume and it doesn't have a certain set, it goes in the trash can immediately. There are several free resources that are available. I can share some of them with you. Since the pandemic, they've made so many resources available because of cybersecurity. And I always say this, so everyone I talk to, if you look at the word security, there's no security without you. Okay, so I really appreciate you guys joining and listening to my conversation today. There's some cybersecurity jobs. I was, myself and Mr. Oko George, I'm thinking about actually having a session where we can talk about different types of cybersecurity jobs, but there's several of them, different things like forensic analysts, right? These guys are the detective of the world of cybersecurity. They search PCs, they search networks for evidence in the wake of incidents, right? There's actually a task force in the FBI that drives digital forensics, and their motto is like, we know where you are and we know where you've been, and if you like thrill or something like that, this may be a role for you, kind of, because it's kind of like CSI. I'm sure you guys have seen the video. There are pen testers. Pen testers' role is to basically look for vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities in targeted systems and networks, right? No matter what their companies today, I know in my company, they have people that are year in, year out are monitoring our systems to make sure that no one can penetrate. So we have pen testers on site on our business that does that for us internally, for our applications and for our corporation. But you need to also have a company. It's called two sets of eyes, okay? There are different kinds of them. There's black hat pen testers, those that just do it for the thrill of it. There's gray hats, hackers, where you give them a little bit of information about your environment and then they pen test your environment. There's red and blue hats. These guys are like, hey, listen, you tell me all the stuff that you have in your environment, and I will tell you. I can do a scan, and I can tell you if I can do a scan, find out what things are, and I can see if I can penetrate any of those things. You know what I mean? And then you can also ask them, can you exploit it? Is it actually exploitable, right? These are skills that actually, I would say 80% of hackers that I know are self-taught. Okay, and they're good hackers. I don't know any hackers, bad hackers per se. That was a straight face joke. But really, I've gone to a black hat conference where people don't even use your real name. You know what I'm saying? But most pen testers are people that are curious, and because they're curious, they have no boundaries, right? There's a lot of different things. There's a SOC analyst, there's application test, pen tester here. For the leaders in the room, there's CISO. You know, these are like, I like to think of the CISO like people that are technical, they're kind of at the top of the ladder. Governance is important, right? If you have any business, you need to have leadership that care about cybersecurity, right? We have some enterprises that are going to say, hey, cybersecurity is an expense and it's going to consume our money and it's not priority, right? They're going to say that, right? And you need a CISO, someone who is technically inclined to say, hey, listen, I know what our mission is. And we need to think of security as an enabler of that mission. Because if you get attacked for all this money that you have been making, then you can be taken down to ground zero with a snap of fingers. Okay, so these are your business decision makers, your thought leaders, people that think strategically. They partner with the leadership and they help speak the language between the technical people and the business people to kind of gain support and drive security initiatives. And we can talk about this another time, but that's basically all that I have for us today. There's some cybersecurity resources I can share with you later on, but without further ado, thank you everyone for listening to the trends in cybersecurity, and let's address some questions.
Thank you, Niles, and I hope I'm audible.
Oh,
you hear me?
I have a couple of questions here. The first question is from Mr. Mora. It says, how would you get the password encrypted in Chrome Password Manager? So by default, you cannot see the password when you use Chrome Password Manager, but you can click on it. When you click on it, it allows you to basically unhide the password so that you can see it. So that relies on you having to have your password. So typically, that's the way it works. Encrypting the password inside of having a different tool to encrypt it, I don't know about a different tool, but it doesn't mean that it's not out there. So typically, in Chrome, I know that it saves your password, and all it would take for me to get into your browser is knowing what your password is, and I can shoulder serve, right? I sit in the plane all the time where I'm sitting and I can read 5 computer screens, and they're logging in and logging out of all kinds of different applications. And while you're typing, I can see it, right? I stand over you. People share computers. So it's a matter of me getting your username to log into your machine, and now I can get that password. The next question was Moses Dachin says, oh, he made it. Okay, says, for an average individual businessman whose majority of clientele and businesses conduct business online, or businesses is connected online, what cybersecurity skills would you recommend for such individual to acquire to stay on top of things? So that's a good question. The question is basically around, someone just requested to annotate my screen, and because of Cisco Web Security, I was able to decline it because I don't want anyone to touch my screen until they talk to me about it. Anyway, going back to his question, for an average individual, how do you make sure that that person put means in place to keep their business secure for their clientele? That's a good question. There's several things that you can do. You can basically, whatever application you use, right, you can make sure that they adhere to some security policies that's enforced by whatever cybersecurity governance it is in that arena that you're in. So for a federal government, they have policies around FedRAMP. FedRAMP determines how secure you are for government agencies to participate, do a business with you, right? And so you will need to make sure that any application that you acquire for your business, if you want to work with the government, adheres to FedRAMP policies. If you're doing accounting, there's some policies that are in place that you should try to adhere to. There's Sarbanes-Oxley. There's several policies that are in place that you need to make sure that every application you acquire meet those small needs that for the vertical that you're in. That's one thing. Something that you can do is basically, I would say, if you're running a small business online, it's important to work with somebody who can do a vulnerability assessment in your environment. It's small. Whether you're using a server, a website, if you have a website, you need someone to test that website to see if it can be penetrated or not, right? I have kids who can do that. In high school, we're teaching cybersecurity, right? So you need to consider getting someone to do a scan to see, are you penetratable? And if you're penetratable, can I actually exploit it? Obviously, it's important to do things like get antivirus software, turn on some firewall. These are like really small required things that you can do on your own end as a person who's consuming or utilizing the data. Another thing that you can do is, for the people that you work with, you can require strong passwords. For a small business, you can require, your passwords are, make sure that they're strong in the sense that they are, they have long characters in long digits, like 12 digits. If you have a password that's about 6 letters long, let me tell you, I can crack it with my eyes closed. Okay? I can crack it with my eyes closed if it's that short, right? So you want to make it a little difficult for me or someone's going to attack us who's trying to steal your stuff. 12 to 16 characters. Okay, don't use your pet name. Who's laughing? Don't use your pet names. People use your pet names all the time. Oh, what is it? Mr. Smith, 1, 2, 3. People have pet names, Mr. Smith, by the way. They use family names. All your sisters. Well, if I know all your sisters, I can add 1, 2, 3 to it, and I possibly have your password. Don't use family names. Don't use your address. Don't use your social security number, your date of birth. And require that all your users change your password every 10 weeks or 90 days. Don't reuse passwords. Don't let Chrome save your password. Use a password manager. There's several of them out there. Don't let Firefox, Safari, Opera save your password for you. Use phrases for passwords, right? Tell a story. I am going to eat rice. I love rice. And if you try me, that's not going to work for me, by the way. I don't give my passwords out, but use capital letters, numbers, symbols inside of them. Tell a story, and that every time you log in, you have to tell a story, and have a business kind of have like a password manager to help you manage that. Don't tell your passwords to anybody. Don't write it down. Don't put on a sticky note and stick onto your screen. That kind of a thing. Let me see. Can you see some links to remote cybersecurity jobs? Oh my goodness, there are a plethora of them. The question is, do you have the skills? Because they're going to interview you, right? But definitely, I would get some online. There are several resources. Oh, LinkedIn. I want to ask that. How many of you on here have LinkedIn page? You should have a LinkedIn page. You should have a picture on that LinkedIn page. You should have your jobs that you've done in the past, well detailed, well crafted out, so that somebody immediately can look at it and say, this guy, at least I should talk to him. Okay? And also another thing I want to suggest for everyone, do you know what your images is online? Like if you go and Google your name in parentheses, what comes up? You can Google me. Google Niles Pyelshak. I know what's going to come up, right? You should know what your presence is online, right? This is why I tell the kids anything that you don't want anyone to know about, never put it online. Whether it's a picture, whether it's what you are doing, if you don't want anyone to know about it, don't put it online. And I don't care if it's Snapchat or you think it's disappearing, I got you. So that's all the questions that I have there. Who else has another question for me? I kind of want to open it up.
Okay, now.
I know that I talked a lot,
okay.
So I kind of want to open it up for thoughts and questions. And if you do want to talk and share ideas or so, this would be the time for that. So make sure you unmute yourself, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, now let me be the first person to take a shot. Can you hear me? Hello, Niles. Can you hear me? Audible.
Oh, Mr. George, I can't make out what you are saying. I can hear you now. Go.
Me now. Okay, I wanted to take the first shot. First of all, I want to say thank you. You can hear me? Am I having audio problem issues?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, George.
Fine. So I want to say thank you for this is an expose, I must say, and this conversation can't end here. Will definitely look for a bigger platform to take presentations such as these to the people, the decision-making people in organizations. I'm sure Mr. Bernard, Mr. Morey, Mr. David Ogunshola will agree with me, and all the things you said, we had our own share of experience as far as attack was concerned with Zoom. Niles was the one who actually advised us to migrate our platform or the platform to WebEx. And Mr. Gunshola, who was the facilitator on that day, is even present in our audience today. During his sessions, we had somebody come, people came, play around and stuff like that. And after the session, we had this conversation that prompted us to decide that we got to do this today. And because as we speak, we don't even know the intent of the damage the person must have done. And but my question is, now you made mention about something concerning the padlock that's the SSL. I think that's what it's called on your on the control where you have your browser. Now, a lot of people, I did a lot, right? And a lot of people, a lot of providers, host providers will tell you, I don't know. Okay, let me just put it this way. How secured is the secure circuit layer as far as your website is concerned? How secured, how secure it is against attack if I have SSL on my site? That's my first question.
That's an excellent question. So SSL is a secure socket layer. Is the ability, okay, so let's talk about, it's the ability to encrypt data before you send it over the wire, right? So I'm sure you guys have heard of HTTP. That one uses port 80 to communicate. That allows your data to move from point A to point B in the clear. Okay, that means that if someone like me is sitting in the middle of the line, your data is in the clear and I can see it entirely. Okay, but when you have that padlock, that means that you have worked with the Digivert or any security companies to acquire a necessary solution so the data is encrypted across the line, which means that if, take for instance your phone, you have a data on your phone, right? And before you put it on the wire and send it across the internet, I can basically transform your phone to look differently so that if somebody that's sitting somewhere in the middle pulls that data off the line and wants to do something with it, because it's encrypted, they cannot do anything with it. They cannot see it. They cannot take it apart because they don't have the key, right? It uses the public and private key system that allows you to say, do you have the public keys from the person it was intended from, or the private key to unencrypt it? It's pretty secure. I'm not going to tell you that nothing bad is going to happen from it, because I know that on my day-to-day basis, I have been able to take HTTPS apart, and I can see people insert things inside HTTPS. So it's pretty secure, to be honest with you, but people can still break it, right? But at the very least, this is hygiene. This is what we have currently, and so definitely it's worthwhile to at least consume what you are able to have, right? Right now, there's actually a solution that I work with on a daily basis that basically takes HTTPS apart. It has the means to do that, to look and see if somebody's hiding anything bad in it, right? But still, I do have keys, and I have public keys and private keys to be able to do that. But most times, that's the basic level of security that I would say that you require, the website you interact with, utilize.
Okay. So, guys, anybody can it's open. So let's let the questions start rolling.
I said a lot of things, and I'm sure somebody has a question. Who else?
I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. If they don't have, I still have more questions. But I just want to let other people the opportunity to ask questions.
Hello.
Yep.
Yes, that's Mr.
Yeah,
Ewa.
Ben.
I can hear you.
Hi, Niles. How are you? Um, thanks for the beautiful presentation. Yeah, I agree with you. You said so much, and I thought you covered virtually every area that would ordinarily draw up concerns from the audience. I'm sure that's why there's quiet in the room. So yeah, listening to you, of course, you touched on the need to develop cybersecurity skills. You also talked about organizations, of various sizes, becoming more security conscious on the rights. Um, I'm just wondering, as a practitioner, how would you advise? You may have said this already, but maybe just to be more elaborate, how would you advise government organizations? I don't know if apart from more, I don't know what else is from the public sector here. How would you advise government organizations to begin developing their cybersecurity defense system? Kind of like a step-by-step approach.
Oh, that's a great question. So the question is this: for a public entity, how would I advise them to basically secure the environment? Is that
Yes, yes.
okay?
The basic steps to follow. I mean, I know they can't do everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
Let me also say that for the most part, uh, um, because most of the system is still um, manual driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it will not be a uniform approach to every for every organization. There are a few public sector organizations that are already um, using technology. So in such cases, there would be a different kind of um, a different approach. But let's assume that you are speaking to organizations that are the barest minimum. I think that would be better.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So the first thing I would say is this. First of all, thanks for the question. Thanks everyone for the question. These are really great questions, and I really appreciate it. The first thing I would like to say is that no matter where you are, you need to evaluate what you have on ground. All right. So whatever technology you're using, whether it's a server, computer, your data center, your data closet, application that you're using, it's important for you to basically analyze that and see where are the legacy systems that you're utilizing, that you're consuming, right? Oftentimes we buy applications or hardware and we just keep them forever, and because they work, we just continually using them. There was a time where I found a Cisco router who had been running for 16 years, never shut down, which means they never, turn them in, 16 years. Obviously, the nature of security changes within that 16 years, but because the Cisco router continue to work, they continue to use it. So consider legacy systems. When legacy systems are created, right, oftentimes security is not a part of the process, okay? So, which means that they have a lot of vulnerabilities in them for people like 12-year-olds I was talking about, right? So if a 12-year-old is sitting anywhere in the wall and you're using a legacy system, then definitely you've opened the door for them. You left the back door open, you left the front door open, and tomorrow you should say welcome. You say thank you, right? So that's one thing, is to consider your legacy systems. Are they secure or not? I always say that your system should have at least 3 to 4 years lifespan on the network. But even within that, those systems are going to require updates of, patches and things of that nature, that you need to make sure that you are updating them. So if it's a hardware, there's going to be patches that are going to be rolled out, and you need to make sure that you test that patch in your lab, and then you actually load them onto the device to make them live. That's one thing. Another thing I want to talk about is policies. So no matter what environment you are, there are several policies that suits for your business vertical. If you are the government, there are several policies that you should adhere to. Number one, not because you're just a government, no, but because you are creating policies for other people that you too, at the very least, should have as a bare minimum, right? If you expect these things from other enterprises, then you at least should make sure that you meet those basic needs, like accountability, a layered way of defense from, like, if you have computers, you have, antivirus in the system, you have firewalls, you have proxying, you have all these layered defense that you can put in place for that enterprise. I will also suggest network observation. So you need to have something like someone who is continually observing what's going on in your environment. We call them the blue team and the red team. The blue team are the guys that are monitoring all the movement of data within the network. They need to know where the data is going. Is it malicious? Was it an alert that went off? Alert went off in this particular device. Why did it go off? What happened? Like, it's important to have a security operations center just for you. And that applies for all the applications you have, patching, and all of those things are important. Another thing I want to say is definitely vulnerability management. I always talk about, from the leadership perspective, we need to have a cybersecurity program. We cannot underestimate the importance of cybersecurity program. That includes having a SOC team, the red team, and the red teams are the people that come in from the outside to see if you're actually secure. It's called two sets of eyes, right? People inside your organization, they may still miss something, but you need to pay for someone to come from the outside who may be much more updated in new technologies because they penetrate several customers to see how secure are you, right? And then the people that work for you, they should at least have the bare minimum certification, right? That they know how to look into a packet. They know how to detonate a malware that comes into the environment, that they know how to, pen test. They need to have valid skills, and training is definitely a core. It's also core. You need to train your employees to do these jobs, and beyond that, you need to invest in security awareness. I think I mentioned earlier that you're only as strong as your weakest link. So security awareness. At my company, I can tell you I get those crazy testing emails all the time, and some of them are from my company. They want to know if I'm going to click on that link or not. And if I click on that link, I know it could be an email saying it's time to change your password. If I don't evaluate it, look for misspellings or poor pronouns or wrong URL and all that, and I click on it, my name immediately goes into a bucket that they need to send me to cybersecurity training, or data breach training, right? And I make sure that I don't click on that because those trainings are long and drawn out. And so you are only as weak as your weakest link. So it's really important for you to do cybersecurity awareness program. And basically that's the gist. That's not all encompassing, but I think having policies, having network assessments is important. Policy assessments is important. Vulnerability management is important. Pen testing and certification services. Like, if you're the government, you're creating policies for other people. I want to say, who's advising you on this policy creation? Have they done it before? This may sound biased, but have they done it before? Number one, do they have experience in it? And then what else is out there that you don't know about? It's called blind spots. I've had my blind spots. Earlier I talked about how I wanted to be the best network engineer, and I got there, but I had my blind spot in that I didn't know how to protect those systems. So, and training is a huge thing. And so definitely bringing in training to train your guys on site is important. I know in my company, we take the time to invest in the training of our people because we know they're able to help us protect our sensitive data, if we train them to do that. So at the very least, you can do that. I'm giving you all of these things, but I would like to say, let's talk about this some more. Like, let's take it off the table and we can explore that if you would like that for your organization. Does that help, Mr. Ewa?
Sure. That's fine. I asked the question mostly for the benefit of the audience, as well as my own benefit. I appreciate and welcome for that conversation. Thank you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Ben, I just wanted to say that. Ben, I just wanted to say that.
Oh my goodness.
Are we having too many interference?
You go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to say that as somebody who works with that and knowing that you drive integration of adoption and integration of IT in Nigeria, and right now most government entities are going online in terms of recruitment, in terms of their services they provide. People need to go online. I think my concern now, after listening to Niles, is the ability to steal people's information. So I think from the policy angle, maybe need a security team that ensures that every government entities that does things online, they should meet certain basic minimum security. For instance, the current COVID-19 palliatives, I know that there are some organizations that are taking people's details online and they're asking for people's BVN, and which is very sensitive data. Now, I think your body, your organization should be at the top of it, ensuring that as far as that government, the security, the minimum security, if not maximum if possible, but at least some standards should be in place, because a lot of the people in the public are throwing their information to some of these things that are being run by government entities, not knowing the vulnerability.
You bring up a great point there. Thank you so much for trying to drive that home. I really, really appreciate it. You're so right about that. Absolutely. A lot of people are giving away their private information. I mean, just giving them away. I was in Nigeria the other day. I went into a building in Nigeria. It was, I'm not going to tell you, it was last year, not the other day, it was last year. I'm not going to tell you the month so you don't find out where I was. But I went into this building. When I went into that building, everybody used their finger to get into the building. There's something called social engineering, right? I walk up and I look funny. I look like tired. I'm carrying my boxes of routers or whatever, and I'm looking funny. You're going to put your finger in this so I can get in. So I get into the building. Someone didn't even check me. And they used your fingerprint, your own personal fingerprint, to let me in. Now I walk around, and you know what? As I walk around the corner, I see your data closet is open. Your server room is open. Your Wi-Fi in the building the password is posted up on there. So I don't even have to break into the password and start, eavesdropping and collecting information. But it's very, very important that, you create policies and you consume those policies and make sure that people know. In fact, I will even talk about accountability. You create policies that are going to be enforced in the environment and make sure that, you look for where people are going to look for transparent deals, right? So that they don't have to, maintain those policies. But you need to be diligent in ensuring that every vertical, whether it's the healthcare industry or the financial tech or banking industry, they meet those policies that you have built for them. And that way, anybody else interacting with them can be considered somewhat safe, right? So yeah, I think you brought up a great idea, a great point, and I really appreciate that. You have to create that, and you have to be very considerate about people you connect with. Like when I said connect with, I talked about Target. Target didn't get hacked because of people their employees or customers is people that they're connected to, right? We need third parties to integrate with us because we need their services. I have a business, I have to have a bank account. And so that means that I have to connect with them somehow so that I can make charges. People want to pay me for their business. I need to make sure that that bank has met the policies to layered defense, that created a layered defense from the endpoint to the network, to applications, to firewallings and DNS securities and cloud security, all of these things, so that they don't create a back hole for me to get exploited. So that's that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Any other, was this helpful to you guys? Can you share your feedback? I will really appreciate it. Obviously, I can always improve.
That's great, man.
I got a comment here from Victor Ananaba. A question, I think I missed that. Victor Ananaba, can you recommend the best certification courses for cybersecurity to enable one to qualify for top jobs? Yeah. Yes, can you say that offline? There are several different certification courses. If you refer back to the list of jobs that I shared with you earlier on, where is that list? It's right here. Each of these lists require different kind of certification. So you have to know what you want to do, and then once you know what you want to do, you can look around and say, what are the certifications that are available in that arena, right? And you're going to find that there's going to be like entry-level certification, mid-level certification, and higher-level certification. For me, when I entered security, it was like I looked through a particular security curriculum. I was like, oh, I already know all these things. I don't need this. Anybody can question me. And plus, I have certain levels of certifications already. But definitely, once you decide if you want to be in a SOC, there's certifications that will help you, like Security Plus. If you want to be in digital forensics, there's certifications for that. Pen testing has its own series of, there's a basic one called CEH, there's CISA, all of these things that you can explore. So maybe we take time. If it's of interest, please let Ms. Suko know, Mr. George know, and I can maybe spend another hour talk about different cybersecurity jobs and what they mean and which certifications may be applicable to you. I understand that if you go online and search, it may take a lot longer time, but I can, offer my my services to basically present for you guys in that arena. Does that answer your question, Mr. Ananaba?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. It takes care of it. I'm okay.
All right. There's a comment here from Olumeko. This is the lessons from a small country like Estonia who built policy on e-government, and today that country is most regarded as #1 world fortified in cybersecurity. I'm talking about government today, and I have seen. I personally, I have gone. I think I shared this with a few people in the Zoom already. I had someone went to an e-government website and they could not access it for quite some time. Why was it taken down? Elections. Oh my goodness. I'm sure you guys have heard about the disappearing server. I don't know the facts around that, but things like that. Cybersecurity is important so that you can create a reliable environment to build trust that your constituents can accept, can say, you know what, I trust that the government is going to protect me, right? At the very least, they're going to try their best. All right, someone else was speaking up. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you very much. Amazing presentation. Thank you.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I'm so glad you can join. I see a few people that I don't know. Imo, did you have any questions or comments around the presentation?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hear you.
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. I so much appreciate the presentation, everything you have taught us. At least I've learned a lot about cybersecurity today. Because one thing I've come to realize about security, security is everybody's business. Whether you take it as a profession or not, it's something that we have to secure. Because the way the world is going, everything is going to be on the internet right now. I'm looking at it, even in my field, I'm into industrial automation. And we have to do that also. We have to cybersecurity, which is something that you have to take very important to secure your data. If not, you can lose a lot of money. But I want to ask, there's a trending issue that is going on Facebook, and I would like to ask if it is a Facebook fault or maybe it's the user's fault. Because these days you see a lot of people posting on their timeline that their account has been hacked due to social thing. I don't know if it is Facebook fault or maybe those people don't really know how to manage the account. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're asking about Facebook
Hello?
hacking? Yeah, I can hear you. Ms. Seymour.
Did you get my question?
Yeah, your
Hello?
question
Hello?
was about
I'm asking-
Facebook hacking. I got your question. I heard you.
Yes,
Let me
Facebook
just
hacking,
type it.
yeah.
Okay, great question. So your question is about Facebook hacking. All right. Yes, Facebook hacking happens quite often. You know why? Because people use the simplest password. They want to be able to log into it immediately, and sometimes they share computers, they share their phones. This happens really easily. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of times people go in there and answer questions about themselves, right? You have these apps. It makes me laugh so many times when I see these apps, but they ask you, what's your favorite, tell me 3 things about you, the things you ate last time, your mother's maiden name, your favorite pet, your favorite species. They are getting information from you so that they can use against
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So cyber attackers are always collecting information on social media. Is just the worst. I mean, people are always collecting data on you, and I tell my people that I work with, my kids, teenagers that I mentor, everybody that I know, stop filling out these forms because you're giving details around about who you are away. And you're not only putting yourself at danger, you're putting your family in danger, right? Because they too, I can now pivot. If I can get access to one account, now I can know who your sisters and brothers are. And now I can pivot and actually launch attack on them as well, and then create all kinds of random Facebook posts or create all kinds of Facebook accounts. And now people are sharing data. People are making phone calls on Facebook like it's regular calls. I can eavesdrop on your conversation, right? Where you are exchanging information about how much you transferred, or what's the account number, and all of these details, or your password. So I would suggest, number one, make sure that you enable MFA, which is the multi-factor authentication, on your Facebook account. Everyone should do that at the bare minimum. If you don't know how to do it, I'll put it in the Future of Jobs link, but you need to do that. Everyone needs to do that. Don't share your phones. Don't share your computers. I'm crazy about that, yes, but you know what? If somebody else logs in, they may be exposed, and therefore you're going to be exposed because all it takes is a pivot. All it takes is a pivot. Now, another thing you mentioned was the ICS. You work with ICS system. I have a friend whose job is to maintain ICS system from a cybersecurity perspective, right? When I say ICS system, everyone may not know it. This is an industrial control, I forget what the S stands for. Yes, system. I forget what S stands for, but maybe Ms. Seymour can correct me. But anyway, these are like these massive systems that are used for utilities, like transformers and stuff, right? These things can be hacked. Like literally, it happens all the time. Imagine NEPA light. Let's say NEPA. I'm able to hack the transformer. If I'm not going to do this, y'all, mark my words. But if I take the time and wanted to hack NEPA light, I can hack all the transformers. And what I would do is make sure that every single Nigerian has electricity 24 hours all the time.
Please go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Or I can hack it.
She work out fun for you.
Things it's not supposed to do. I can make it do things that it's not supposed to do. You know, you don't want people that are not paying to have electricity. That's wrong. So anyway, I'm not doing that. I'm not telling anyone in here to do that, but that's a possibility. So it's also good to employ cybersecurity in your environment so that you can guard those systems, because especially if they're legacy, I'm telling you, anything can happen to it. So thank you so much for that input, Mr. Imon. I really appreciate it. We have Yunan
questions, so please.
Yunan. Sorry, Mr. George, I was not able to get your comment. I can hear you now. Go. No. Yeah, that's not good. All right. Anyone, Ms. Gachimo, you were there. I can see you. Do you have it? Thank you so much for joining. Do you have any questions or comments about the presentation? You might have to unmute yourself. Mr. Datchin, thank you so much for joining us. All right. I think that's all the questions we have.
Good evening.
Yes, Mr. Lomasa.
Good evening, Mrs. Niles. Thanks for the insight. And I appreciate that very defensive presentation you've done. And this equally going to build quite a number of knowledge base for organization, especially my fear is the government sector or the public sector. That's my fear. Most private sector, most likely between 50% of them has kind of a bridge into security for their data and all of that. But our big fear in Nigeria is the public sector. Quite a number of like this not adequately, though we can say most likely they are not even informations at all. So we look forward to seeing the government sector or the public sector coming up with solutions, coming up with cybersecurity policies to help boost security of citizens, especially now that the new normal is on ground right now, and we hope that this will be taken out there for them to hear and see reasons why they should protect the data of every citizen in Nigeria at all sectors, cutting across all sectors. That's my own contribution. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, let me quickly chime in. This is Moses. I was muted. I didn't realize that. I first want to commend your effort in putting this together. I think this is an excellent way to kind of create awareness of what needs to be done. I just wanted to add one more thing with regards to you being in the industry and having exposure to the ongoing knowledge and skills that are out there. I would like to say that, this will be a great avenue to kind of share any of those information that is available for individuals to upgrade their capacity to be useful in that area. One of the things you mentioned was the need to kind of educate yourself. Sometimes for some people, it's not knowing exactly what area, because cybersecurity in itself is broad, but little baby steps that individuals can take. If you have those information, I think it would be useful to share those. Somebody might benefit from that. So that's just what I want to add.
Okay, thank you so much for that comment, Mr. Dachin. I really appreciate that. So clearly something that I am passionate about. You're definitely right about that, and something that I'm experiencing. I'm definitely passionate about, training. right? So for me, there's a vast majority of ways that I actually try to share trainings with people. I think this is one of the ways by doing webinars like this. I do mentor some people right there in Nigeria and even in the United States personally. I do that. But on the grand scheme of things, I also do something much bigger than that. I do have actually, I'm going to stop the recording since we are just communicating. Okay, that's fine. Just a second.